Hello, everyone. We are so glad to be here with you again. This is the Enlighten interview. And today we have a special guest, Stéphanie Hamon. Is that correct, Stephanie? Um,
Yes, very well.
thank you so much uh, for being here in our Enlighten interview. One of the things that we wanted to introduce for our Latin American attorneys, it's regarding of your experience in Europe regarding legal operations maturity, which is a very huge work that you have been doing. In a matter of fact, it's also known very, very well here in New York, United States. And for the Latin American people, sometimes it's different because we are used to handle with so many litigation problems that sometimes we don't figure out how legal operations can be more precisely in other parts of the legal systems as well. So we'd like to invite Stephanie to say some few words to us to explain how this maturity works, this job that she is doing right now in your legal professional. And so this is it. So Stephanie, thank you so much again to stay with us here. And please introduce yourself to our Latin American colleagues. And the word is with you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Felipe. Nice to be here with you today. My name, which you very well pronounce, is Stéphanie Hamon. I'm French by background, but I've been living abroad for almost the last 20 years. So I've lived in different part of the world, in the UK, just across the channel, but also in Asia, where I was based for a few years. And I did spend quite a bit of time in New York and the States as well for work. By background, I'm not a qualified lawyer or attorney. I went to business school, I've got an MBA, but I've been working in the legal industry for over 20 years now. I say over 20 years because they reach a point where you don't want to count anymore. I don't want to give away my age. But I've worked with and for lawyers for over 20 years. And as a result, I feel I've got a great understanding about their challenges. And I think what's been interesting for me as well is that not only have I worked in different part of the globe, which I think helped me understand there is not just one way of looking at things, different jurisdiction, different problem, different idiosyncrasies that people need to take into account. But I've also worked on both sides of the fence. So I worked in private practice in a number of large global law firms, Linklaters and Clifford Chance, King & Wood Mallesons, and now Norton Rose Fulbright. But I've also worked on the client side here now at Barclays, where I was, in a sense, the global head of legal operations. It wasn't called that at the time because it was still new and nobody really knew how to call this. But I would describe legal operation as applying business principle and financial discipline to the running of a legal department. So it's really that business aspect of running a legal department and really helping in-house team addressing the challenge that a lot of them have, which is doing more for less and articulating the value the legal department is bringing to their respective organization.
Yeah, it's very common thing. It's very special understand by you the things regarding that you are not a lawyer, but you were a business woman and you came to the lawyer's world to fix it some things that it not so easily for us because here in Latin America we don't receive any lessons for administration business into the school, which means it's very complicated to our lawyers from here try to understand that the law firm and the in-house counsels, it's a business. Surely in certain times doesn't make any money, but you can fix problems for the business owners, which means it's very an important thing. So based on that, could you say a few words about how is the maturity regarding the legal operations in European vision? Can you say something to us that you are doing right now, which was how you can doing the scalable things in legal operations maturity in Europe, please?
Sure. And just to actually pick up on something you said and building up on it, you're right. Lawyers are trying to be lawyers, and they're really good lawyers, but often, and I think it's universally recognized now, there is not enough training around business skills, and you need them when you're in-house and running a function. So that's quite important. And I think also, you pointed out, and that I'm starting to answer your question by saying that, but you pointed out that my background is in business rather than in law. So I would say I'm a business person specialized in the legal field. But one of the buzzwords in the industry at the moment is innovation. Innovation is a way to try and do things we've always done in the past, but in a more efficient and effective manner. So it's not new thing for the sake of new shiny thing. It's really trying to bring that efficiency. And with innovation, you need an external catalyst, because nobody goes to bed one evening thinking red and wakes up the next morning thinking actually it should be blue if there's not an external influence. And I think that's where bringing a diversity of skill sets helps with the innovation, because you bring different perspective. So, diversity, of course, all kind of diversity, but in that case, diversity of skill set is also very important to help actually with that innovation and looking at how things could be done slightly differently, and helping people look at things just through another angle, really. So that's what I wanted to say. To talk about legal operation and a maturity, I'm wondering actually if you're okay with that. I wouldn't mind sharing my screen to share a bit of a visual that I've put together, because that might help actually.
Please.
So I'm just going to do that. And this is a model I developed to explain what legal operation is, or at least my definition of legal operation, because I think that is one of the challenge at the moment. If you ask 10 different people what legal ops is, you will get 10 different answers, from the most tactical element to the most strategic element. It is actually a very broad remit, and that's what this pyramid is intended to show. I built that model initially to start discussing with my client, the in-house GC or head of legal operation or head of legal. It's based on Maslow hierarchy of needs, with the most strategic element at the top and the most tactical one at the bottom. And the idea is that as a GC, as a in-house function, you want to operate at the top of the pyramid. You want to be seen as a strategic business partner. So it's really about moving away from that perception of legal as a cost center and a necessary evil almost, to really legal as a strategic enabler. To do that, of course, you need to contribute to shaping and delivering the strategy of your organization. But it's really hard to make recommendation if you don't have your own house in order. And that's what I call managing your function like a business. And that has been heightened by the financial crisis, where for a long time, the legal department were left to do their own thing because they were making problem go away, and nobody really understood exactly what they were doing. But with the financial crisis came a lot more pressure on cost and the need for legal to articulate where they were spending the money and whether they were using the resources effectively. So the need to manage a function like a business. But it's a pyramid, but you could also say it's a bit like a house. You don't put the roof on top before you have got the foundation in place. And the foundation are the bottom two layers. And they are the more tactical elements. An obvious one for me would be knowledge management. As the legal industry, what we sell, what we buy is that knowledge. But yet, many organizations, whether they're law firm or their in-house team, still are not organized well enough around knowledge management. We surveyed a number of in-house team over the last 18 months, and what we've noticed is that over 2/3 of in-house team don't have any knowledge management system. So quickly, what that leads to is, if people leave and they had stored all of their documents on their hard drive, you lose that knowledge. As a in-house lawyer, you're always looking for the precedents and the templates, and you don't really know where they are. So you go to the last one you use, but is that the latest version? You don't really know. And already you can see how that might not be the most efficient, but also could create some additional risk, actually. So you've got those tactical elements at the bottom, and the bluish line in the middle. They are the various components of your strategy. The elements that, as a GC, as a in-house lawyer, you need to consider. In addition to managing legal risk, which is still your primary responsibility. So as a in-house lawyer, there are really two sides of your role. On the one side, you're managing legal risk, you're a lawyer, but on the other side, you need to be a business partner. And to be a business partner, you have to do all of that. And it can be a bit overwhelming because there's a lot, but actually one thing leads to another. And depending on the maturity of your organization and your function, you will need all of this, or actually only a few elements of it. So this for me is legal operation. And that's why I say some people will tell you legal operation is one thing, because what they will know is very much tech. Like you see technologies there at the bottom, it's very much a hot topic at the moment. So for people, legal ops is about buying tech, implementing tech, all the way up to the strategy design. So in legal operations, you will find people that are doing process management in a way. So they might be reviewing your billing processes, or they might be doing your e-discovery, all the way through people who have a title like chief of staff or COO, because they will be covering a broader scope and looking more at the strategy. In Europe, it's fair to say that there are a lot of legal operations team that are operating toward the top of the pyramid, so around the chief of staff, CEO side of thing.
Yes, this is very interesting, dear Pyramid. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I have other question to you regarding this and about your professional role. How do you think your professional role, or I mean, professionals with the same skills that you have, could help new lawyers? Because we are facing sometimes a big problem, or I mean, a big situation between um, old school methods to teach law.
Mm.
And in the otherwise, we have a new demand regarding the professional roles of lawyers. And you, as a MBA professional, how do you think that it's possible, or how can you think that you probably will improve these new lawyers with your experience? Tell us a little bit more about it.
So I think there's probably a number of things. The first one usually is in-house team are so busy that it's almost seen as a nice to have to be doing that business side of things, because there's work to be done, right? And there's contracts to review, there's NDA to issue, there's financing to put in place. So the first thing is, okay, how do I lift my head from, being head down and being busy doing the doing? So the first thing where legal operation, either as an individual or actually as a mindset, I should say, what is important is to have the right mindset aligned to the pyramid. Not every organization can have a legal ops team because it's not justified by the size of their operation. But if you've got the right mindset, and that's how a lot of people move into legal operation from being a lawyer, is they say, surely there must be a better way of doing these things. I can't believe that we're still doing things the same way for like decades, if not hundreds of years. So the first thing where legal operation can help is look at how could you do the same thing or get to the same output and deliverables, but in a more efficient manner. So a lot of that, for instance, would mean looking at legal design to mapping out the process. And by mapping out the process is understanding in your typical transaction, who is doing what at what point in time and what are the dependency. And that way you understand where might be the blockage and where you could help. And then maybe technology could also be used to help with some of that. So I'd say this is the first place where legal ops can help in-house lawyers and attorney, is how to do what you're doing more efficiently to free up capacity away from the admin side of things to the more strategic side of things. I mean, in all our role, we'd love to always be doing the strategic element of it, but we've got the bread and butter, we've got the admin. In no matter what is your role and your responsibility, there are all of those three categories. And if you could spend less time on admin and more time on strategy, that would be better for you as an individual, for your personal development, but also better for your organization. So that's the first thing. The second thing really is to help in-house lawyer understand how they can relate to the business better. So really understanding the strategy of the organization and how they can add value, and trying to speak the same language. So often what we end up doing as legal operation is almost like a translation role, to help translate what actually the business says and wants, and how legal is replying. Because often what we notice is people are like two sheep passing in the night. They talk about the same topic, but they don't really understand each other. So it's really helping with that almost translation element.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have two further questions to you. The first one, it's related to this subject. Let's assume that you probably will need some lawyers in your team. You are hiring. And so my question is, let's assume that Stephanie are doing a job interview for someone, for some reason, I don't know, that you need to hire someone. Which main skills a new lawyer has to have to work into your legal operations team, Stephanie?
So my answer might surprise you, but I think the two main skills I would look for are empathy and curiosity. Empathy, because it's all about how you're interacting with others and how you can put yourself in the other person's shoes to really try and understand what the problem is and how you can solve it for them, and seeing it not just as what you want out of it, but how it's going to help the others as well. And that's, that empathy is a key to collaboration and to innovation and to change. So that's really important. And curiosity, somebody would be asking themselves always a question, but why? Like, why do I do it this way? But why? So somebody was curious and keen to learn. What I find really interesting in the field of legal ops is it's still very much greenfield. There's still a lot of things to build, solutions that don't exist just yet. So the ability to try and look at things differently, being curious, looking at what might be happening in other industry that you could just tailor for the legal industry is really important. So nothing technical, nothing about knowing how to code, knowing, any of that. I think it's more, we're still a people business at the end of the day. The legal industry is still very much relationship based.
Yeah, looks so nice. So people, if you need to send your resume to Stephanie, please feel free because she is right. Just a joke. Okay. And the final question, Stephanie, and thank you so much for having us here. What do you think? What do you think it's gonna be the future of legal ops in legal department? Because I'm asking you this because we saw different methods to conduce legal operations across the world.
Yeah.
In the United States and in Latin America, it's common use to have legal operations in-house. But in Europe, especially in England, we saw a different model, which means companies that provides an outsourced professionals to conduct the legal ops for a company. So what do you think it's going to be the future related to your experience, and consider the innovation and consider this global efforts to do the things more approachable for the continents? What do you think?
That's a tough one. I think probably legal ops will follow a similar pattern as lawyers. So, there's sometimes a debate, like, do you even need in-house lawyer? I've worked with company where they've been in existence for years and years, and they've only just appointed their first in-house lawyer. So, you've got the similar model, right? In-house, where you can either insource everything or outsource everything, or a bit of an hybrid. And I think probably legal ops will follow the same pattern, because to do legal ops well, you need to understand your organization and the stakeholder, and you need to be close to your internal clients. So you always, I think, will need somebody internally that can be that, voice or ears on the ground rather than voice. But indeed, you don't always need to have individuals or headcount all the time, because some of that will be project related, or some of the things will be kind of repeated BAU, but you don't necessarily want to carry the headcount, or you don't have enough of a volume to justify hiring people, and that's when you would go externally to outsource some of that. So I think it is likely to be an hybrid model. What I find is an interesting trend is in all of the newer legal departments and the startup and the scale up, legal ops tend to be one of the first 5 hire in a legal department. So I think there is that realization that if you are, especially in an environment that is about to grow, if you want to, you need to set things up right from the beginning. It's almost easier to set things up rather than letting things develop, and then you have to come and remediate and try and change the way things are being done. So I've seen that trend where smaller team do have, as part of the first 5 hires, a legal ops professional, which is for me really, really interesting trend to see.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for being with us here at Enlighten interview. I'm so glad that you accepted our interview, joined to us here. Stephanie, guys, it's an incredible person. We've been discussing this interview a couple weeks ago. She was very kind. So thank you so much again, Stephanie, for to be with us. It's going to be, I think, incredible experience for the Latin American lawyers who works nowadays with the legal operation issues to understand how it works with Pyramid, how it works, the legal operations in a European vision. So thanks so much for being with us. If you need to say some words, please go ahead.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been my real pleasure. And if anybody's got any follow-up question, you can always reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. This is how we first connected, Felipe. So feel free to reach out. And if I can help, I would be happy to.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Keep watching Enlighten interview, because we always have the opportunity to interview some personalities in the legal industry regarding legal operations, technology, legal design, visual law, all of these things. Thanks so much to watching us, and keep watching our channel in the YouTube.